Hi, I'm Michael Heagle, the co-writer and director of the motion picture Go to Hell here on Troma Team Video. This is To Hell and Back, a short documentary which is a philosophical treatise on the making of the no-budget motion picture. Hopefully you will find both inspiration and education out of this short documentary. Let's take a look. Go to Hell was my first film out of school, and it was the first feature film I attempted. Being the first film out of school, it also became a school of its own in that I learned a lot of important lessons that they don't teach you at film school. And if you decide to go to film school, you're really just spending a lot of money to have someone else cramp your style for you. You might get exposed to a lot of things that you wouldn't have otherwise, but I really recommend for the same money, go out and make a couple of movies. Don't try to make one big one, but go out and actually make a few things, and you'll learn just as much or more by doing it and failing. If you were to try something, don't try something as big as this your first time out, but do start by making something that you can afford to fail on, because you probably will. The first rule of engagement in the whole thing is to write a lot first, and be prepared to throw out your first few scripts. I know you're probably very excited and getting your mojo about actually getting out and shooting stuff. I say it's okay to do that too, but don't put too much faith in it unless you have a script. There's a few things in the making of a motion picture that you absolutely can't skimp on, and I think the two things are script and cast. If you look at any of the movies that have been successful, those will be the two things that have always been consistent with it. Any properly hyped piece of shit movie can make a big opening weekend, but it's the ones that have script and cast that are really going to stand the test of time. Rock and roll right, and I sat down and wrote the first 20 or so pages based on the concept of what if a pro wrestler got involved in the Gates of Hell. Gates of Hell, pro wrestler, put the two together, all right, let's make something. So you got zombies, you got hell leaking, and you've got a wrestling guy. That was the triumvirate of things that we started with. So it was written, then it was rewritten. By the end of the first draft, what started as a small, let's have some zombies and a pro wrestler, ended up being this outrageous farce fest at the end with things that we couldn't possibly shoot. But that first 15 or 20 pages was pretty sound. And in 1994, moving to Minneapolis, we decided, let's go ahead and shoot what we've got, because this is the closest thing to solid that we've got. It's got marketable ideas, and on top of it, those first 15, 20 pages were made to be shot cheaply.
But when you finish a script, the first thing you run into is problems. Well, this takes place in a church. Where am I going to find a church? And suddenly, if you can't find a church, you have to rewrite. And a lot of times what we found is when we came up with an idea that we both really liked, and then we went to try to do it, for some reason we couldn't do it. So we had to change our ways, change the script around, and usually, actually most of the time, it turned out better than what we had down on paper.
Yeah, I think that's a big lesson for independent filmmakers in particular. You can't really use the script like it's gospel. You have to be able to go with the flow. There are so many logistical things that are involved in trying to get a feature done that if something goes wrong, you can't be tied to that, because you'll be stagnant. You won't be able to get anything done. You have to be able to kind of go, okay. You have to be able to let go of what you had and go, all right, what can I do given what I have?
So we started by getting a bunch of short ends from a local group called Independent Feature Project North, which coordinates, gets filmmakers hooked up with resources. In this particular case, it was short ends, which are pieces of film stock that are left over from legitimate shoots that aren't going to be used. So with the help of a nice tax return that I got in that year, I bought as much stock as I could afford, and we shot and processed the first 25 minutes of the movie, which includes everything from basically the beginning of it to the point where they end up going to hell. Most of that stuff that you see is the original 25 minutes of the movie. Alright, keep it going. You guys get back to back.
Stay close.
Okay, great, and cut.
They just got enveloped. This is just wild. That's hilarious. Oh, Jesus.
The bad guys have arrived.
We need big
and cut.
Yeah.
Real nice job.
I feel like we could have done so much more, though. If we had a little more space, and they didn't have to be in so close, because we kind of lost some of the. We could have gone faster and stuff, but oh well. Hopefully it would look good. Hopefully it would look passable.
It always feels slower than it actually looks.
Really?
I was living in Wisconsin at the time. I moved up here in '94 specifically to help work on the movie. And what I did was I lived at home and I saved money up and was able to contribute, was it $1,400 for film transfer?
Yep.
That stuff's expensive.
Film video.
Hugely
Expensive. So
It's amazing.
stay at home, kids. Get a job. And
Live in your parents'
get in your
basement.
parents'
Yeah.
basement. Save your money up and make that film. And you don't have to answer those
Even
credit
if
cards.
your parents don't have a basement, live in it.
Live it.
Dig
Dig
one.
a
Build
hole.
one.
Dig
and
a
live
hole.
in
The
it.
basement, yep.
I shot that around to various distributors in the hopes of raising money to finish it. Nobody bit, so in '97, and you can see how much time this actually spanned, we decided to finish it up with what we had. We knew we had certain elements that we wanted to continue to use, and then we basically rewrote the second 2/3 of the movie based on things that we thought we could get or things that we knew we could get. Gary Rankle, as the Rock and Roll Miracle, drives up in a motorcycle. Well, we didn't have that motorcycle. It wasn't even scripted. He happened to have a buddy at the local Harley shop who loaned him this Russian bike with sidecar. Said, yeah, just take it out and just bring it back when you're done. So that's the kind of thing that you really want to look out for. Pull favors wherever you can. People bringing their own costumes. Lots of the guys who were in the movie had stuff that they had accumulated themselves, either from Renaissance Festival stuff or God knows what. So we took advantage of that wherever possible. The A-Man's entourage basically came fully dressed as in their own fetish gear, which is basically why they were hired. The missile base is an odd one. Missiles in Hell, we didn't really have that as an idea, but we knew we had access to this abandoned Nike missile site in Wisconsin. Troy, the producer, had been scouting it as a place to use for a short film of his own, and when we saw it, we said, well, we definitely have to take advantage of this. By the time we did, they had moved in a missile, the shell of a missile. So we said, all right, we're definitely writing a scene around this. And in fact, that end battle scene takes place entirely in the Nike base itself. Probably the crowning achievement of our discoveries for using things that you've got is the abandoned hotel, which is Rainbow Springs in southeastern Wisconsin, recently burned down. So it will appear as a post-nuke environment in my current film, Planetfall, which is a post-nuke sci-fi spaghetti western. So appropriately enough, it will get reused. In Go to Hell, it represents the palace of Bob Beasley. Now this is a resort that was built in the 1960s. The guy who built it never lived to see its completion, and it stands as a big hollow shell out in the middle of Wisconsin. I kind of described it as like The Shining, but without the carpet. Brought a grip truck in, lit it, and used it for Beasley's palace. It was instant production value, and I recommend to anybody who's trying to do anything like this to just take an inventory of what you've got and see what of this is cinematic, what can I use, and what can I get away with for free, ideally.
Lloyd Kaufman was scheduled to make an appearance at a Barnes & Noble store, and we were like, oh, let's get there and give him a tape. He canceled. And we knew some people at the Heights Theater, and literally called Troma up. And it's great. Most movie companies, if you call them up, you get pushed to another person, to the janitor. But in Troma, you call up Troma, you get Troma. And you go, oh, wow, that's great. So we were like, hey, we want to book your latest movie.
Welcome, Minneapolis. It's great to be here. Troma, Minneapolis. Wow. Woo.
So we'll screen your premiere, your Midwestern premiere in Minneapolis. They said, great, we'll do it. Send it out there. We coincided it with Lloyd Kaufman at Barnes & Noble. Lloyd Kaufman showed up. So we were in person. Lloyd, here's a tape, here's a copy of a script.
Then we got a call.
Yeah, Lloyd loved it. Lloyd loved it, and the people at Troma loved it.
To his credit, when we did the screening, the whole idea of the screening that for his film was to promote his film, and we interviewed him to talk about him, and he talked more about us.
Yep.
And,
Good to see ya.
Ray has made a movie right here in this fine state
Yep,
of
yep.
religious crutches named
Go to Hell.
Very good film.
More information just on the table with the Troma giveaways.
The Troma team and people like Car School, they care about what they're doing and they love film. Has Troma been any influence on the Car School of filmmaking?
Troma has been an incredible influence on the Car School way of filmmaking. I would like to say that it's really common and great.
Anybody that wants to do it, do it. It doesn't matter what format you're using. Doesn't matter if you have money or you don't have money. The point is to shoot something. I would highly recommend shooting a short first 10, 15 minutes to see if you're really even interested in it. Shoot it, complete it, and then decide if you want to go forth and expand on your 10 or 15 minute idea. And you'll learn a lot from just that.
Filmmaking is very much an evolutionary process, not only in just making it, but in learning how it's done. I've seen a lot of people get really frustrated because they go out and they try and do something and usually they bite off a lot more than they can chew. I've done that myself. I've seen a lot of people kind of get out of it because of that. There's nothing easy about this medium. It's very difficult. It's like fighting a war. It's like, you have to put together this army to go attack this monster that is whatever the force is that says, filmmaking is somehow unnatural, so you have to go against the force of nature to create it. You learn by doing, that's all there is to it. And you start, pick something that's doable and shoot it, and you're gonna go, oh, that looks terrible, I don't know how to shoot or whatever, but you're gonna learn. The next thing you do, you'll remember, I remember when I was in this situation before, I'm gonna adapt and do that.
Yeah. These are hard-earned lessons that I'm sharing with you in the hopes that you don't make the same mistakes that I did, but also hopefully to inspire you to new heights. Sort of as parting shots here, let's just say, don't let the non-believers drag you down, because they'll try to. Be original, be creative, and for God's sake, don't spend too much money. And if you can, avoid spending your own money. Work hard, but have fun, because if you have fun, your cast will have fun, and if the cast has fun, chances are really good that the audience is going to have fun too. So once again, this is Michael Heagle of Car School Filmorama saying get out there and start shooting.